Novak Djokovic would have been better off in the U.S. Supreme Court. CNN, the world number one ranked tennis player Novak Djokovic won, completing the Australian Open this week after an Australian court anonymously ruled to deport the Serbian tennis star for being unvaccinated against COVID-19 without a valid medical exemption, which would be required to legally enter the country. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison welcomed the court's decision as helping keep our borders strong and keep Australians safe, thus ending a week-long saga of court hearings, revoked visas, diplomatic roles, and more. It's really too bad for Djokovic that he didn't have his case heard before the United States Supreme Court, which very well may have let the tennis star not only play in the tournament but also hit the COVID germs into the stands with his racket. Okay, I'm exaggerating about the last part. But in the same week, the Australian court upheld the revocation of Djokovic's visa for not being vaccinated, a rule all tennis players arriving for the tournament have known about since November. America's top court struck down a similar effort from President Joe Biden to protect the public health of the nation. Last year, the Biden administration introduced a nationwide mandate for companies with more than 100 employees to require either full vaccination or weekly testing for their workers. The mandate, which would affect about 80 million workers, was immediately challenged. In Thursday's Supreme Court decision, the six conservative justices in favor of blocking the mandate did not dispute the federal government's argument that the weekly testing or vaccine requirement would save thousands of lives and prevent hundreds of thousands of hospitalizations. Rather, their decision is based on the view that the Biden administration lacked authority to impose the mandate, which states the employers argued would prompt hundreds of thousands of employees to leave their job. When it comes to saving lives versus saving on compliance cost, the court astoundingly said it is not our rule to weigh such trade-off. It did, however, allows for the nationwide vaccine mandate for certain healthcare workers. The U.S. Supreme Court has apparently become just as partisan as the rest of the GOP, which has made opposing COVID mandates, from masks to vaccines, an article of Path. The result has been a very real impact on the health of Americans. For example, in Florida, a state with a population of 21 million, similar to that of Australia's 25 million, GOP government, Ron DeSantis, in November signed what he boasted was the strongest piece of legislation that has been enacted anywhere in the country to oppose COVID-19 vaccine requirement. The law imposed fines on businesses and even hospitals that mandate the vaccinations without the choice to opt out through medical or religious exemption or proof of natural immunity, despite the fact that having recovered from COVID-19 infection does not make people immune to getting it again. DeSantis championed the law, also jaw-droppingly banned the school district from having mask requirement and prohibiting schools from quarantining healthy students who may have been exposed to the virus, or measures that are widely used to prevent the spread of the COVID-19. But DeSantis has apparently refused to let a little thing like a science stand in the way of the scoring point of with the GOP base. In contrast, Australia has imposed the strict COVID-19 safeguards, including 6 lockdowns of Melbourne, a city of 5 million that totaled more than 260 days. That may seem draconian to some Americans, but the data shows these measures work to save lives. The nation total coronavirus-related death toll in this nearly 2-year pandemic totals 2,673 people. Compare that to Florida, where as of Saturday there have been more than 63,000 COVID-related deaths. It's impossible to say how many lives would have been saved if Republicans like Florida's government DeSantis didn't make opposing COVID-19 safeguard in partisan issue. What we do is that Australia's COVID policies have resulted in one of the lowest death rates, strongest economy recoveries, and highest vaccination rates in the world, as Australian Immigration Minister Alex Hawke, who revoked Djokovic's visa, said after Sunday's court ruling. On data points that jumps out from his statement are vaccination rate. Nearly 80% of all Australians have been vaccinated, and per Hawke, that includes 91.6% of Australians older than 16. Compare that to our country, where only 63% of all Americans are fully vaccinated. Sadly, given the politics of today, the states with the higher vaccination rates tends to be the ones that voted for Biden in the 2020 election, while the states that support former President Donald Trump generally trail behind. Worse, according to a CNN analysis of data from Johns Hopkins University, since vaccines have become widely available, the average risk of dying from COVID-19 is more than 50% higher in states that voted for President Trump in 2020 than it is states that voted for President Biden. Recent data back that up, showing that the states with the highest COVID-related death rate in 2021 were Oklahoma, Alabama, and West Virginia, again, Trump-voting states. Florida was the ninth highest with a rate of 190 deaths per 100,000 people, totaling nearly 41,000 deaths. That was well above the national average rate of 144 COVID-related deaths per 100,000 people. So, superstar tennis player Djokovic won't be able to play in the Australian Open, but we can assume he will still be fine. He has a net worth of roughly $220 million, and also he will win even more tournaments going forward. I wish we could say the United States will do as well, as long as GOP leaders prioritize the scoring point with their base over protecting all Americans rather than taking a page from Australia's walking safety measures. Our nation will become sicker, and not just when it comes to our physical health.